I highly encourage everybody to do the TEAS standard because again, it's $50 more, but you get full latitude in description of goods and services. And if for some reason you have to amend the description of goods and services, it's nice to have that flexibility the TEAS standard affords you. So we had a logo that we were using as sample logo. This is the logo for our future app. We haven't even written a line of code, right? But we plan to release this as an app in the future. Let's get started with the application. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to tsdr.uspto.gov and we're going to go to File Online. All right. This starts the process for how you go about filing the application. So you're going to click on Initial Application Forms, and then you're going to click on Start Your Application in TEAS right here. I'm already logged in, so it takes me directly to the initial application starting point. But just so you guys know, if you guys are not logged in, then it will prompt you to log into your uspto.gov account. If you don't have a uspto.gov account, it's not a big deal. You can create one. It doesn't take that long at all. It's pretty quick. Go ahead and make your uspto.gov account. And then when you get to this point, you'll be able to log in. If you're already logged in, though, it'll take you directly to this page here. I'm going to go ahead and click the TEAS standard. And then I'm going to do it from the perspective of our company. If you guys are doing this for your own company, you'll be able to follow this video along exactly and get your logo submitted. This is where you put our owner information. The owner of the mark is going to be my LLC, Standard Technology LLC. And I'm going to select entity type as a limited liability company. Once you select that, it almost refreshes the pages, but then it asks you for the state of incorporation. So I'm going to go ahead and select California. And then down here below, I'm going to input my mailing address information. So this is our co-working space. And I'm going to go ahead and leave my phone number blank and my fax number. And it's going to give me a warning later, what you guys are going to find out. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is. And I'm going to go ahead and select my company email. And I'm going to go ahead and put a website address. Now, again, website address is optional, but I'm going to go ahead and leave the phone number blank. So when I hit continue, it's actually going to give me an error. Not an error, but a warning. It's going to say, hey, it'd be really good if you entered your phone number. But remember, they have my email. So that's how they're going to communicate with me. If they need to communicate with me, they'll send me an email. And more than likely, that's what's most likely going to happen. If there's any issue that needs to be corrected, the examiner is going to reach out to you and send you an email. They do sometimes call you. So again, sometimes it's nice to have a phone number, but remember, this is all going to be public and published to the world. So it's almost better to keep it confidential. But if you have a company and you have a customer facing phone number that everybody has anyways, then maybe it makes sense. This is the part where we're going to upload our special form character. This is basically a logo. So I'm going to go ahead and click choose file. Now, I've already teed up the logo for us. So this is required. These are the maximum dimensions, 250 by 944. What this means is that you can't have any image that is less than 250 pixels in any dimension or more than 944 pixels in any dimension. So what I like to do is I like to make the image as large as possible so that it's up to the 944 pixel. So if it's a lengthwise image, 944 pixels in length. If it's long wise, I would make it 944 in height. Now, obviously, keep the aspect ratio, otherwise it's not going to look good, right? But I like to just have a nice big image if possible. I think it just shows up better on the register. Now, the other big thing is I like to submit black and white or grayscale images. That's because I usually do not claim color as a feature of the mark. However, if your mark is in fact has color that is distinctive and operates as a source identifier, then maybe it does make sense for you to claim color as a mark. And again, JPEG and PDFs are required. So I'm going to go ahead and click attach. Guys, if you guys don't click attach here, it's actually not going to attach your logo to your application. And you know that it's attached because it does this refresh and then it shows up here. That's how you know it's in fact attached. We have to now input the literal element. And again, this is the actual words that show up in the logo. So I'm going to go ahead and type in wheelbound. That's the cool logo that Victoria designed for us. Again, we're not claiming color as a feature of the mark. So I'm going to check this box here. If you were, you would do something like the color blue and gray. You guys get the idea. But here, we're not claiming color as a feature of the mark. And again, this is where you actually describe what the mark consists of. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's a visual design of a wheel having the words wheel bound at the center. It adds the period for us. So you don't have to go ahead and add another period. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and click continue. Now we get to go to the fun part where we get to take advantage of the TEAS standard part of the application. So if we scroll down here, we're gonna see that we have options. We can search the ID manual, or we can enter free-form text. So this is really where the power of the TEAS standard comes into play, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in and just click enter free-form text, and this is gonna take us directly to the option to actually input our own description of goods and services. So I'm gonna go ahead and select class 9. Again, class 9 is for downloadable software, okay? If you guys have a website, that's not gonna be class 9, okay? But if it's a mobile app, if it's downloaded onto the phone, that's gonna be class 9. So now we get to actually input our own description. So we're not tied to any sort of description that's in the TEAS Plus application. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in, how about mobile applications that provide language learning tools? Now I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna select section 1B. Remember, we're doing intent to use trademark applications in these series of episodes. And again, what that means is that our application is not yet out in the App Store. It's not yet out in the world. Consumers can't yet download it or use it, right? This gives us an opportunity, though, to start the application process and secure a filing date for the logo. So again, really powerful tool, guys. We're gonna check the box here. This is just saying that you understand you have a bona fide intention to use this mark in commerce in the future. And it also reminds us of the requirements for getting this registered, which is that eventually you're gonna have to submit what's called an allegation of use. That's a fancy way of saying you need to submit proof that you're actually using the mark in commerce. So you're actually using this wheel-bound logo to promote and offer your mobile app in the marketplace. Eventually, we're going to have to submit that proof. That proof is also called a specimen, and it can be a screenshot of the mobile app store that shows your logo next to a mobile app that you can download. Again, we're going to check the box, and then we're going to click Assign Filing Basis down below. We click that button, and then it takes us to this page here, and it shows us Class 9. Here's our description, and then Section 1B. So we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and click Continue. And again, if you guys watched episode 67 yesterday, you guys saw the TEAS Plus application, while being $50 cheaper, limits you in terms of what description of goods and services you can actually put into the system. So it's kind of nice that we're able to, in this situation, have more flexibility. So I'm going to go ahead and input a docket code for us, and I'm going to put Victoria's email here. Now, one thing I want to remind you guys, it's really, really, really good idea for you guys to include your teammates, your colleagues, anyone that you are working with in this marketing effort to secure and protect your brand. Just because if you get correspondence from the trademark office, you want to make sure that you know about it and that it's calendared correctly. And so I think the more people that know about the correspondence, the less likelihood that something's going to slip through the cracks. To add them, all you do is just add semicolons and add their emails afterwards. And you can enter up to 4. So again, really cool, useful way to stay organized and stay on top of everything. I'm going to go ahead and click Continue. And now it's going to take me to the part where I actually can validate and sign the application. So I'm going to sign directly. They make it really, really easy for you guys to sign these applications. All you have to do is put your name in within slashes. But before we get there, we have to sign some declarations. What that basically means is we have to click some checkboxes. But guys, I highly, highly encourage you, if you guys are doing this on your own, it's a really good idea for you guys to read what you're marking. This is essentially a legal instrument, and so it's really important to understand what it is that you are attesting to when you sign this document. So the first checkbox explains to you what an actual use application is and what an intent to use application is. Now, this confuses a lot of people because they selected intent to use, but then when they're reading it, the first thing they see is actual use. So that applicant is filing under use in commerce. So this is confusing, right? But there's actually an or here. So it's an if statement and there's an or. This bottom section is what is applying to us. So we are filing based under an intent to use the mark in commerce. So this is the section that applies to us. Now, the 3 boxes below are expanding out upon what this means. So basically what this means is that we have a bona fide intent to use the mark in commerce, and we're entitled to use it in commerce, which means that there isn't another individual that's using very similar mark for the same goods and services. So the second checkbox is saying that as far as we're aware, there isn't some other mark that is really similar that might create confusion in the marketplace if our mark were also to be registered. So the third checkbox is saying that everything that's in this application, it has some factual support behind it. And then this fourth checkbox is saying that we understand that we're citing under penalty of perjury. So any willfully false statements could subject us to fine or imprisonment. So once we check these 4 boxes, then we can go ahead and sign the application. Again, they make it super easy. All you do is you put your name within slashes. Now, I've had people call me and tell me that, hey, it's not letting me sign. Remember, it has to be within slashes, and it has to be between. So you have to have one at the beginning and one at the end. So remember, slashes, both sides. Now, once we sign it, all you do is click. It actually auto-populates the date for you. And then here we put our name in. And then for the position, if you have some title like president or CEO, go ahead and put it in. That's where you put it in. The phone number is optional again. So that is how you sign the application. Once we sign it, it's going to be what's called validated. So I'm going to go ahead and click validate. And again, it's going to give me the same warning of, hey, you didn't put your phone number in. Again, not required. And now we're at the very, very end. This is the very last step in the filing process. This page is going to give us the opportunity to review our application before we submit. So I'm going to go ahead and click input. Once we get here, we can actually download the application as PDF. You can view and save as PDF if you want. But here, we're going to review the application and make sure all the information is correct. So the mark consists of a visual design of a wheel, having the word wheel bound at the center. Again, I didn't follow my 944 pixel count rule here, but it's okay. 624 is actually still pretty big. Again, this is the company, so we're filing under the company. So the company is going to put the mobile app out there. So that's why we're filing under our LLC. And again, this is the one place where your contact information is required. And again, the reason why that's required is because that's where all the correspondence is going to go. That's where they're going to send the application, filing receipt, for example, and any correspondence is going to go to that email. So make sure that email is correct and is accurate. We're going to file under class 9, and it's for mobile applications that provide language learning tools. And again, Section 1B, meaning we intend to release the app in the future, but we haven't yet released it. And then again, we gave it a docket number. Again, this is just to keep track of cases. We have a lot of cases in our internal company, and so we have to use docket numbers. Otherwise, there'd be no way for us to stay organized. And again, this is my email, and then this is Victoria's email. And again, we're paying $275. So we're paying $50 more than the TEAS Plus, but we got to craft our own description the way we wanted to see it. We weren't limited into any sort of canned description that was required by the trademark office. Now, one thing I'll tell you is you might get an examiner that actually requires you to add the word downloadable. Again, not a big deal. You can amend it later on with the examiner. That can usually be done informally over email, sometimes even over phone. But basically, what they might require you to do is just add the word downloadable before. So it might be downloadable mobile applications that provide language learning tools. So I'm going to go ahead and click back again. Oh, by the way, this is my signature. Now, when I go back, I just want to tell you, everybody, before we submit, it's really, really important that you guys confirm that this is in fact the mark that you guys want to file, because once you submit, you cannot go back and change it. So if after I submit, I talk to Victoria and she's like, oh, you know what? Actually, I think it should be wheel bounds, like with an S, plural. That'd be a whole new application. You cannot get a refund on this application. So keep that in mind. Make sure this application is correct and complete before you submit it. Otherwise, you're going to have to submit a whole new application and pay a whole new $275. Now, if you guys want to save the form, just click Save Form, and it downloads what's called a .obj file. That .obj file is really useful because let's say I wasn't 100% sure that I wanted to submit this morning. I could save it and then talk to Victoria about it and then come back tomorrow and then upload the .obj file at the beginning of the filing process, and it'll automatically populate the entire application for me. So it almost like restores the entire session. So useful tool, saves a lot of time. Now, let's say we made a mistake anywhere in the application, super easy to fix. Just click go back to modify, and you can literally go back and step through every part of the application, and it'll save all of your information. So it stores everything. The cool thing is that when you go forward, you don't lose any information. So it all gets saved. So again, pretty cool, a quick way to make changes, go forward. And then again, it's gonna save all the information. So you don't lose anything. And then very last thing before we submit, we actually have to check this final box that reminds us of 3 very important things. First is that, again, as I said before, there are no refunds, okay? So there's some things that you cannot amend later. And one thing you cannot amend later is the actual mark. So make sure your mark is actually correct. And that's the exact mark that you guys are planning to use. The second thing is that everything in this application is going to be public. So there's no right to confidentiality. That's why I was saying earlier that you might want to consider not disclosing your telephone number in the application just to keep your phone number off spam lists. The very third thing and last thing that they remind you of is that because the information is public, there unfortunately are a lot of companies that will send you spam letters trying to shake you down for money, trying to scam you out of money that you don't actually have to pay. So if you get a scam letter, you should go to this site here. You can search misleading notices. We've actually done episodes on this before, but you can actually see, and if you search by the name of the company that sent you the letter, you can more than likely actually find them on this list, because they keep a pretty comprehensive record of all these companies that are scamming people. There's no such fees that are going to be due after you file your application. Only if you do an intent to use, and then later you're going to have to submit an allegation of use or an extension of time. And there's fees associated with those. But the important thing to keep in mind is that those fees are paid through the trademark office site. You don't get a letter from the trademark office that then requires you to pay a fee by mail. It's all electronic. It's all online. Our application is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and click pay submit. And once I enter my credit card information and pay, I will get what's called a filing receipt. That filing receipt has my filing date, has my entire application, and very importantly, it has my serial number, okay? That serial number is super important. The serial number is important because I can go to tsdr.uspto.gov and I can look up the status of my application. Once I have my serial number, all I do is go to tsdr.uspto.gov and I just enter it right in this box right here and click status, okay? And once I click status, it's gonna bring it up. Serial number is useful because it lets me track the status of my application throughout the entire process, and also is tied to my application even after my application issues and is registered in the principal register. I hope this video was helpful. So thank you so much for watching, guys.